All right, ready to dive into some financials.
Always.
Let's take a deep dive into Nuvama, one of India's top wealth management companies.
Sounds good.
We've got their Q3 FY25 earnings release and the investor presentation, plus their unaudited financials.
Yeah, should be interesting. I know they've been doing pretty well.
They have, it's impressive. Their operating profit for the first 9 months of FY25 is up a whopping 76% compared to last year.
Wow, that's huge.
We're talking 731 crore. And it's not just a one-time thing. Revenue is also up by 45%.
And I've heard it's not just concentrated in one area.
Right, exactly. It's spread across different segments. That's what I find interesting about Nuvama. They're not just a one-trick pony. They're seeing growth in wealth and asset management, asset services, and even capital markets.
Yeah, their CEO, Ashish Kaher, seems pretty optimistic about their position in the Indian market, especially with the projected economic growth.
It does make you wonder, how are they doing it? I mean, their business model, it's diversified, but what does that actually mean? How does it all work?
Well, think of it this way. They cater to everyone from your everyday affluent neighbor who's doing well to, like, the wealthiest families in India.
So, a pretty wide
It's a
range.
huge range. Plus, they work with big corporations, too. We're talking over 1.2 million clients who are considered affluent, or HNIs. High net worth individuals. You'll hear that term a lot in finance.
Right, got it. HNIs, the wealthy folks. So they're serving the HNIs, but they're also working with the ultra-wealthy, right? Those family offices, and then even institutions.
Exactly. And that diverse approach, that's one of the reasons they're so resilient. If one part of the market takes a dip, they've got other things keeping them going strong.
Makes sense. Like a diversified investment portfolio, but for their business. Smart.
Mhm.
Let's break down these different segments a bit. They've got wealth management, asset services, and capital markets. Lots to unpack there.
It is. Where should we start?
Well, their core seems to be wealth management, right?
Absolutely. That's where it all began. They've got Nuvama Wealth, focusing on those affluent individuals and HNIs, and then Nuvama Private, catering to the ultra-high net worth individuals and those family offices.
And this segment's doing really well, isn't it? Revenue grew by 18% last year, which is pretty impressive considering how competitive wealth management is.
Definitely impressive. It shows how they're tapping into a growing need in India. More and more people are looking for professional help to manage their money.
Then there's the asset management arm, which seems to be exploding. They're managing over 11.267 billion across both private and public markets.
Huge numbers. And what's even more impressive is their growth in public market assets. It's tripled in just the last year.
Tripled. Wow. It's like they've found the magic formula. Plus, they're hinting at launching their own mutual fund, which makes it seem like they really want to dominate that market.
Ambitious, but it seems like they have what it takes. The momentum, the resources.
Yeah, they do seem to. Okay, what about asset services? That's a big part of the picture too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the backbone of so many financial transactions.
They're holding a crazy amount of client assets for clearing and custody, 1.3 trillion. And that's up 57% from last year.
It really highlights the level of trust they've built with their clients. Those clients are essentially entrusting Nuvama with their financial well-being.
They're like the guardians of the vault, making sure everything runs smoothly. All right, and lastly, capital markets. That's where they play in the world of institutional equities and investment banking.
And they're not just dipping their toes in, they've actually doubled their market share in equity IPOs, which means they're helping more companies go public than ever.
So riding that wave of India's IPO boom.
Exactly. They're right there in the thick of it.
Okay, so we've got this company performing well across the board. What's their secret? What's in the sauce?
Well, their investor presentation gives us some clues. They're laser focused on a few key things: scaling their capacity, strengthening their technology, improving the quality of their revenue, and being really efficient with their capital.
So working smarter,
Yeah,
not just hard.
exactly. And it's paying off. They've already exceeded last year's net flows in just 9 months.
That's incredible. Plus, they're making big moves in other areas, raising 1,700 crore for their commercial real estate fund, constantly upgrading their tech platforms, especially for those wealth management clients.
It shows they're not just reacting to the market, they're shaping it.
They're building their own surfboard. I like that analogy. But Nuvama's success isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a much bigger story. The incredible growth of wealth management in India as a whole.
Right. It's like a rising tide lifting all boats. India is projected to see 6–7% GDP growth in the coming years, compared to a global average of just 3%.
Wow, that's a big difference.
It is. And as the economy grows, so does wealth. But here's the thing. About 70% of India's financial wealth isn't professionally managed right now.
Seriously. So there's a ton of money just sitting there waiting to be managed.
Exactly. And that's a huge opportunity for companies like Nuvama. They're strategically positioned to fill that gap, especially with their model that caters to both the affluent and the ultra-wealthy.
So they're becoming the one-stop shop for wealth management in India.
That's the goal, it seems.
Okay, it all sounds very promising, but let's not forget about the potential challenges. Their unaudited financial results also mention some legal issues, specifically with their subsidiary, Nuvama Clearing Services Limited.
Right, and CSL. It gets a bit complicated, but essentially they're facing scrutiny over how they liquidated collateral securities after two of their trading members defaulted.
So they're being accused of not properly vetting the collateral.
Yeah, and potentially liquidating securities that belong to clients who weren't even in default.
Uh-oh. So how serious is this? Could this derail their success?
Well, we're talking about potential liabilities of 460.32 crore for one trading member and another euro 22.27 crore for a second. That's not insignificant, even for a company as large as Nuvama.
Definitely not small change. What are they doing about it?
They're appealing the rulings and are confident about a favorable outcome. But even if they win, it does highlight the risks involved in that part of their business. It's a reminder that even the most successful companies can face unexpected hurdles.
It's a good reality check for sure. So we've covered a lot. Impressive growth, diverse business model, ambitious strategies, the exciting world of Indian wealth management, and even some potential challenges.
Yeah, we've got the whole picture. What are your thoughts so far?
I'm honestly blown away by their growth, especially in asset management. Tripling their public market assets in a year. That's insane. But it does make me wonder how they'll manage all this growth while keeping their personalized approach to client service. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. It's a good question to consider,
Mm-hmm.
and something we can definitely explore more when we look at their financials in the next part of our deep dive.
Absolutely. There's always more to uncover.
Back again, ready for more.
Always ready to dig deeper. Let's get into the numbers.
Yeah, let's open up the spreadsheets.
What jumps out at you first when you see their financials?
Well, that revenue growth, I mean, we talked about it, but seeing it on paper, it's impressive.
45% year-on-year increase for the first 9 months of FY25.
It's a lot of growth. They're at 2,130 crore now, and it's not just one segment doing all the heavy lifting.
Right, every segment's contributing, like
Yeah.
their bread and butter, wealth and asset management.
Yeah, 18% year-on-year growth there. Not bad, considering how competitive that space is.
I imagine that growth is tied to their strategy of adding more relationship managers.
It definitely is. More advisors means more clients, more assets, more revenue. But it's not just about adding bodies.
There's that technology piece too, right?
Yeah.
Making things easier for the clients and advisors.
Definitely. Their investor presentation talks about their digital platform, onboarding, transactions, reporting. It's all integrated.
So they're trying to streamline the whole experience.
Exactly. In today's world, especially for those high net worth individuals, you've got to have that smooth digital experience. Nobody wants to deal with paperwork anymore.
Makes sense. Okay, so wealth management is chugging along. What about asset management? That's where things seem to be really taking off.
Oh yeah, assets under management are up by a whopping 71%.
They're managing $11.267 billion. It's mind-blowing. And a lot of that growth is from their public market funds.
Yeah, they've tripled in size in the last year alone. Remember we talked about them launching a mutual fund? Well, this growth just shows how serious they are about making a splash in the public market.
They're not messing around. But can they keep up this pace? There's a crowded market out there.
Good question. To stay ahead, they'll need to keep innovating and differentiating themselves. Can't get complacent. Plus, they can't forget about their existing wealth management clients. Those clients are used to a certain level of service.
It's a balancing act. Keeping those high net worth individuals happy while attracting a wider investor base for their public market funds and, eventually, their mutual fund.
A delicate dance, for sure. Let's shift gears for a sec and talk about their profitability. Their operating profit after tax for the first 9 months of FY25, up 76% year on year.
Talk about efficiency.
It's amazing. They're growing, but they're growing profitably. That tells me they're managing their costs well, which isn't easy when you're also investing in technology and expanding your workforce.
They're clearly being smart about it, watching where those pennies go.
Definitely. And they're focusing on those high-margin products and services. It's not just about revenue, it's about profitable revenue.
Makes sense. But we can't ignore those legal challenges, specifically the issues with NCSL. Those could really affect their profitability.
Absolutely. Those legal battles can be costly and unpredictable no matter how confident they are.
It's a risk investors have to consider, for sure. Speaking of investors, what about Nuvama's strategy for keeping them happy?
They've consistently paid dividends, and their investor presentation really highlights their commitment to creating shareholder value. They're trying to strike that balance, keeping both investors and clients happy.
And with strong financials like these, they have the flexibility to do it.
Mm,
They can reinvest, maintain a healthy balance sheet, and give back to the shareholders.
it's a good position to be in. Oh, and before we move on, one more thing. Remember their mutual fund plan?
Yeah.
They've already filed their application with SEBI for a mutual fund license.
Wow, so they're not just talking about it, they're taking action.
It seems that way. They're serious about entering that market. It'll be fascinating to see what kind of funds they launch and how they position themselves.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, so we've gone through their revenue growth, profitability, and their capital management. But numbers don't tell the whole story, right?
Right. Nuvama's success isn't just about financial smarts. It's about their reputation, their leadership, their commitment to client
All the
service.
things you can't see on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Those are crucial for building trust, especially in wealth management. So, all things considered, what's your take? Are they on the right track?
I'm impressed, I have to say. Their growth is phenomenal, they're managing costs well, and they're making smart strategic moves. But those legal challenges are a bit of a cloud hanging over them.
I agree. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation. They seem to have the ability to navigate it, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It's like, is Nuvama a good investment opportunity? That's the ultimate question.
And that's what we'll try to answer in the final part of our deep dive. We'll put all the pieces together and see what conclusions we can draw.
We'll see what the verdict is. Okay, so we've spent this whole deep dive looking at Nuvama, their performance, their strategy, and what's happening with wealth management in India.
Yeah, we've really dug in. Now the question is Nuvama a company you should invest in?
The big question. And as always, we're not giving financial advice here.
Right, we're just giving you the info so you can make your own informed decisions.
Exactly. So, big picture. Nuvama is a major player in the Indian wealth management sector, which is, let's be honest, booming right now.
Definitely booming.
They've got this diverse business model, solid track record of growth and profitability, and they're poised to benefit from India's increasing wealth.
They're kind of in a sweet spot, bridging that gap between affluent individuals and the ultra-wealthy.
And let's not forget their tech focus. They're scaling up, expanding their reach, innovating constantly.
Yeah, those are all good signs for future growth.
But, and there's always a but, we can't ignore those legal challenges with NCSL.
True, that situation is a bit of a wild card. It could impact their bottom line.
So it really comes down to your personal risk tolerance.
Yeah,
How comfortable are you with uncertainty?
right. If you're okay with a bit of risk and you believe in Nuvama's long-term potential, they could be a good fit.
But if you're more cautious, maybe wait and see how those legal issues shake out before jumping in.
Exactly. No two investors are the same.
And it's important to zoom out and remember the bigger picture too. India's economy is strong, but there are always risks. Global factors, regulations, even politics can affect any company.
You always have to factor those things in.
So stay informed, do your research, and make decisions that feel right for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me is this balance between technology and the human element.
Yeah.
We've talked about Nuvama's tech focus, their move into public markets, their ambitions with the mutual fund. But how will they keep that personal touch? As they grow, how do they make sure they're still meeting the unique needs of their diverse client base?
It's a good question. They'll have to be really thoughtful about how they use technology, make sure it enhances that human element, not replaces it.
It'll be interesting to see how they navigate that.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good place to wrap up our deep dive into Nuvama. Hopefully you have a better understanding of their performance, their strategy, and the whole world of wealth management in India.
Yeah, it's a fascinating landscape.
Remember, knowledge is power. And the more you know, the better equipped you are to navigate the world of finance.
Absolutely. Make those informed decisions.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive, everyone.
Happy investing.